is a secret. I know you like to keep it clean. No prying eyes to keep you honest. What do you hide when you hide with me? If you think you're clever, then you've never weathered anyone like me. I've been training all my life. Guess your numbers aren't right. Cause when she calls mine, I'm not gonna lie. Those pretty eyes, are you scared now? You can't erase all the things you've seen. Do you like my shows and all my monsters? Now you're my latest favorite thing. Do you wanna play, misbehave, say the ways you plan to hurt me, abuse and drain me dry? Now you wanna know if you'll make it out alive. Nah, I'm not gonna lie. Don't you want my affection? I thought you said you were mine. Won't you join my collection? La 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 la, you'll be fine. Oops. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna.
All right. Hey, everyone. How's it going, everybody? It is Thursday once again. Can you believe that? It is Thursday. It seems like, it seems just like yesterday that I was finishing up the last of the sessions for Virtual Greyhawk Con, and, well, okay, there was a Monday in between there where I did absolutely nothing, but that's kind of getting ahead of ourselves. First of all, welcome to the TTRPG Theater. I am your host, Rob Phantom NJ. Yeah, fast and sucky. I am not going to argue with that assessment. Oh my goodness. What a weekend it was. It was a long weekend. It was a fun weekend. I hope everybody enjoyed Virtual Greyhawk Con as much as I did. This was edition number 6, which is just incredible to think about. It still feels like yesterday that we were still just planning the first one and trying to figure out how to make it all work. There's been 6 of them now. Like, I mean, if you had told me it was like number 3 or 4, maybe number 4 or so, I'd buy that. But 6? We're number 6 already? My goodness, we've been at this for a long time. But yeah, there was so much going on. Obviously, things kicked off with a bang on Thursday night with our good friend and one of the people who's really made it possible for me to do what I do, and a lot of it helped to build the following that I have, which I really appreciate. That would be Jay Scott, Mr. Lord Gazumba himself. So we kick off Thursday night, and there's the 2 games Thursday night, and then of course Friday morning comes, and so it begins, and I had the first of my 3 sessions, Danger on the Dun Tide, and let me bring up the list of who I had playing in these games, because it was a fun weekend with a lot of familiar faces that were sprinkled out through the sprinkled out through the weekend. DM Chris over here and his wonderful wife Lakeisha. Chris, the two of them were in I think it were 5 out of my 6 games. Playing two different characters each. Because they were kind of wasn't necessarily, it was kind of not so much separated by storylines, or there was something to that. A lot of it was separated by where the action was, and on Friday and Saturday, 3 out of the 4 adventures took place on the left side of the map. Yeah, and you probably would have signed up for the 6-hour one if you could, but that one, it was more. The only person who wasn't a regular in that one was didn't want you killing Lagamundo before Saturday. Oh man. So yeah, we started off Friday with a bang. We had Asher over here playing his ranger. Getting to have some fun with his ranger. We had Chris Brungall playing his paladin, who was the brother of the one character that has died in this campaign so far. The one character that died was Bollock's Break Anvil, a dwarven cleric. I don't remember if he was of Moradin or Clangeddin Battlehammer or what it was, but playing Balderdash. Oh man, and we had we had a lot of fun with that one. DM Chris 72 and his wife introducing their new characters, Hob Silverback and Kyria and Thalassar. Dwarven barbarian and an elfin cleric. Always a lot of fun. This was the party that had 2 clerics and no mages to speak of, or no illusionists to speak of. Mark, who is Lomas Lightfoot on Discord, and I believe on Twitch. Oh, Lord knows I've done enough of that, Asher. I have definitely done my fair share of that. This was fun in that I got to do a little ship-to-ship combat, which led to one of the funnier moments where Brungall decided that his Dwarven Paladin decided to try to use the catapult on his own, and managed to clear the ballista off the rear deck of the aft deck of the enemy ship, as well as the guy who was manning it. The problem came later in the realization that the guy who was manning it was the one who probably had the most treasure out of all of them, and because of the way the dice rolled, he basically cleared him clear off the deck. So there was that little thing. They made a promise that they were going to go find a way to recover the body at some point from the Duntide River. It was a good session. It was a lot of fun. And then they got to deal with some bone snappers, and those bone snappers and lizard men afterwards that had basically eaten the people that they were after. So yeah, and it was a good time. They helped deprive a lord in rebellion, or a banished lord trying to return, who is basically in rebellion against the crown. Hey, Touch of Evil, good to see you. Good to see you. So yeah, I mean, this is how things kicked off with a bang on Friday, and it was a good session. It was a great session for starting off with. We had much fun, and I very, very specifically, I knew that I was going to need to do things smart in order to survive this weekend, because if you didn't hear or hadn't quite caught the numbers, I decided that this year I was just going to basically run games. The only thing that I played was in the Joust on Saturday night. And I knew that in order to do this and make it through, I was going to have to be able to have a break. And so I planned for a 2-hour break in between all of the sessions I had where I had more than one session in a day. So that went from 9 a.m. to 1. We were the featured morning stream, and it was a great time. The mid-afternoon, the early afternoon stream the mid-afternoon stream kicked off at 3 o'clock. That was Dark Heart of the Gnatmarsh, and this was an interesting party makeup because Dark Heart of the Gnatmarsh, Asher with his ranger and Brungal with his paladin were also in that particular adventure. So hey, listen, if nothing else, your ranger got to have a good XP weekend, and as well as his paladin. Chris's paladin, because Lord knows he needed that. Where we didn't have any direct spellcasters in that one, we had quite a bit of spellcasting for this one. We had an elven wizard played by Alessio, who was playing with us from all the way from Barcelona, which was pretty damn cool. You got somebody in Spain who's, for him, it was actually early, not early evening, probably like late evening, but it was a lot better timing for him in terms of when he could play a game and still be on our schedule. Mark had his cleric again. Lomas had a cleric. Lee with the gnome scald, who really did a good job in keeping the party in bonuses between a cleric and a scald. The party had some damn good bonuses basically most of the adventure. Toran's made it to level 5. That's excellent. That having ranger at level 5 is nice. And then we had John playing a half-elf druid. So we had a cleric and a druid, a scald and wizard, and there was plenty of magic going on. We had a lot of fun with the fact that the range on spells, a lot of these spells is ridiculous for first level spells, where first level spells are being cast from 450 feet away. And then you go look them up in AD&D and you realize that they're ridiculous in AD&D, but in AD&D they were castable from like 360 feet away. And then you realize that, that ridiculous, and they still added 90 feet onto the range, which just like, what? Actually, it might have been 320 feet, because I want to say they added over 100 feet to the range, and I'm like, what are you doing? So, they're casting Entangle, and this one also, this one dealing in the Gnatmarsh. There was also witchcraft about. They did find another. Well, no. In second edition, in first edition, it might have been 350 yards. In second edition, it specifically says it doesn't do the inches thing. In second edition, it gave the actual range in feet, which is what I checked, because I realized that I would drive myself crazy if I was looking at the first edition and trying to parse, remember all that again, because indoor is feet, outdoor was yards for the inches, where it meant two different things depending on whether you're indoors or outdoors, which still strikes me as kind of weird, but it is what it is. So yeah, the funny moment. I mean, they did end up hunting. What was really plaguing a good portion of the Gnatmarsh, and just making the Gnatmarsh an even more oppressive place than it usually was. Turns out it was a gem, some kind of gem, which turned out to be the Dark Heart of the Gnatmarsh. That was, basically being held in stasis and over a bunch of runes that was making everything weird, extremely weird, painfully, oppressive and such. And we had beyond the fun of the beyond the fun of spells being cast at ridiculous ranges, we had the fun of wizards going invisible and going away from the party and going dangerously close to the third witch, who is all by herself, and then the druid casting a spell that trying to capture, get the witch entangled in it, and ends up catching the wizard, who's invisible, who is, the wizard may be invisible, but the things that are entangling him are not. So, if it wasn't for the darkness spell that had been cast, they probably would have found it. The wizard probably would have been spotted. And of course, if the wizard dies without casting an offensive spell, no one will ever find the corpse. So that was a rather amusing moment in all of that. Eventually, right at the very end, they did manage to destroy the gem, and take some heat, which actually made things easier for the party on Saturday. Some of the bonuses that might have been given out or penalties that might have been given out on Saturday did not happen. I mean, I guess you could always get around with detect magic. Yeah, this is true. I like to make the wizard worry, though. Have more fun that way. That's the one game. I think that's the one game that actually ran long. That one, went a bit over because I kind of got stuck where I didn't know what to do when I was like, well, first of all, there was a long discussion as far as what the plan was. Oh my goodness. It's one of those things where sitting there, I'm trying very hard not to do any railroading, but I'm also cognizant of the fact that we only have so much time. And I mean, it's one of those things where if this was just like an open session, I would have just sat there and let them go and do this whole wild, intricate plan that they were trying to come up with, where to possibly get the witches fighting with each other, and it all was going to kind of be for naught because they didn't understand what the things that they were trying to move around. They didn't realize what they were. And yeah, it wasn't the worst case of it this weekend, though. Amazingly enough, it was not the worst case of it this weekend. But it was getting to the point where it's like I kind of like had to throw in a hint that maybe they're right, that you begin to think that may not be something that's really going to cause strife or whatever to get it moving, because it was they were there for a while. They were there for a bit trying to plan it out. So yeah, I mean, it was a fun session, though. It was made for some quite a few amusing moments. And then we finally moved on to the third session, which was hey, Longshot, good to see you. We got to the third session on Friday night, which was When Embers Ignite. And at this point, Chris and DM Chris and Lakeisha moved over to their characters, who I can't stress enough how much they how many times I must have repeated it, but it bears repeating. They are the only two people in this campaign that started off playing in the campaign in person first. There will be there's a chance that there will be others who will join them at some point, because Rachel from Marquee Gaming, I will definitely have Rachel playing with us at some point, and she first played in the campaign at GaryCon. Lexfire, if George ever plays in one of the virtual Greyhawk con games, or in a St. Jude's game or something, joins in a one shot, he will be another one who's played in person first. And because I'm pretty sure that I've GM'd at 3 virtual Greyhawk cons. I'm pretty sure George has been in one of my sessions all 3 not virtual Greyhawk, all 3 3 Gary cons. I'm pretty sure George has played in one of my game in all 3 Gary cons I've run CNC at, or basically all 3 that I've been at, because the first one I only think I ran 1 session, and then I ran 3 for the last 2. So yeah, those 2 will definitely at some point be join the in person first, and then online. The Friday night session was fun, because we had Chris and Lakeisha playing their Monk and Rogue, which first came in at GaryCon. We had Fosco playing his half elf ranger. Then we had Bob Doc Shoulder playing his human paladin. Witch Starfall, Sky, the first of her 2 characters in the campaign, though it was the second one that she actually got her hands on. It was the first one she got to play, playing Ariel Brightstone, her human cleric. And Michael, oh God, I forgot who Michael is, or if Michael was, I'm trying to remember, now I'm like losing my mind if Michael was somebody I know ahead of time or met then. Playing no, Friday night Michael was the I gotta switch that before I forget. That ended up being, it was supposed to be a guy named Michael. It ended up being Pat Draws, because Michael is the guy who I sent him the character. He said he liked the character, and then an hour later he had left. He had gotten rid of his ticket for the session, and later didn't show up on Thursday night for Lando's game. So yeah, so Pat Draws ended up playing Dorian Bradford, a human wizard, and again we ran into issues with there being a plan. Now, in fairness, the plan that they did come up with was a good plan. I'm glad they came up with the plan they did, because they would have been in trouble if they hadn't gone the way they did. It took a little time for them to get around and figuring it out. It was in actually, I think it was Star who came up with the actual final plan, or the version of it that the starting of it that worked. But yeah, it was also one of those things where they were the first in the campaign to get actual confirmation that the rebel forces operating under the the banner of what was believed to be the former Lord of the Eventide, Estward Ventros, whose the initial of his last name had shown up in numerous letters over the past year of gaming, where they were trying to either gather troops or gather supplies possibly for troops, and basically stealing shipments and such, and various documents pointing back to them, because they came across what was best described as a massacre on their way while they were chasing a bunch of humanoids. And it took some work, but they did figure out that the humanoids that were being chased were not responsible for the massacre. They managed to discover the body of one of the enemy troops, and so they managed to gain confirmation. That's a big turning point as far as the campaign goes. It's one of the big turning points in terms of this campaign. And we'll get to get to some of those later, but they did eventually manage to succeed in their mission. They weren't able to find the troops that performed the massacre, but they did find the humanoids. They were able to take out the humanoid group, which is important. And but the embers have ignited, and there is now fire in the Midlands of Nyrond. Hey, Bill, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You are it's very, very, very kind of you. And if I mean, I don't. I think everybody who is here knows who Bill the Mastercrafter is. If not, you really need to watch Lord Gazum stream, because Bill is responsible for the magical terrain in use. It's just amazing stuff. It's stuff to aspire to. I mean, I think that's the best way to put it. But seriously, Bill, thank you so much. I really, really do appreciate it. Which brings us to Saturday, and Saturday was a big day. If nothing, it's kind of funny. I ran 6 games. It was very stressful. A lot of the stress with regards to the 6 games was in the logistics of getting everybody together, the logistics of making sure that I had everything ready for the streams, so that in the time allotted in between, I was able to go get things ready for the next one and still give myself a break, because 2 hours goes by very fast, because the last half hour I'm already in the process of setting up people getting into getting into Zoom and getting them in the overlays and making sure that everybody's in the good places. And so all the logistics go into it. And it's kind of funny when I get into the games themselves, it's almost like I can exhale and just have fun with it and enjoy. And I have the general idea, but I do a lot of letting the party let me, working off what the party does to figure out how I want to handle things. So that's good, as long as the party is interacting with me, because if the party's being quiet, that gets a little uncomfortable. It's like I feel like I'm talking too much. Yeah, I am, Bill. I'm very, very much looking forward to hanging out at Pages. It's going to be a good time. I'm getting in. I'm pretty sure that I took off the Wednesday before, so I believe I'm going to be getting into the area early. Last year, I believe I didn't get in. I think I worked that day and then left right after work, and ended up not getting there until the middle of the evening or something like that, or late in the evening. It was a trip down there. If I remember correctly, it was the weather was not great heading down. So Page is going to be a good time. Looking forward to seeing the entire South Jersey crew. My big thing for Page, probably my 2 big events for Page, really, just because it's something I haven't gotten to do before. I did see that. I'll confirm. I am like 90% sure that when I put in for the dates, I put in for the Wednesday as well. Just because I want to be able to, enjoy this one more than I got to do last year. Also because I'm feeling better, which is nice. But my big things for Paige are going to be I get to play in a Carlos slicing game in person. Amazingly, I've been to 3 Gary Cons, but I've never gotten to play in one of his games there. So Paige will be the first time I finally got to play in one of his online games, which was excellent. But I love getting to play with Carlos in person would be cool. And then I get to play in a game which I think is actually being run, despite the fact that it's under Darling's name. I think Kurt is actually running it. It's going to be a cyberpunk game where I get to play with both Darling Creepshow and Little Bones, which is going to be an awesome, awesome time because those two are great and Kurt's great, and then I also get to play in Jay's game on Thursday night. So here's hoping a spot opens in one of his other games too, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, no, talking about going back to Virtual Greyhawk Con. The only session that I was legitimately nervous about was the Saturday session because it's a 6-hour session, and it's one of those things where last year I kind of knew how I was going to fill the 6 hours. This time was a little different because I knew we were going to have a long combat at the beginning, and it was fun. I enjoyed the planning for the setup of the combat. That group, the Righteous Hands group, is always good for some role play. So I don't know. I don't have to worry about that as much. So I knew there was going to be some of it that they were going to be able to bring with it, and then it was a question of how long that combat was actually going to take. Because afterwards, I kind of knew what was going to happen afterwards, but it was kind of hard to plan, not knowing how long the combat was going to take, how much I could add after the fact. And I think the fact that the combat did get us to the final 2 hours made all the difference. I would probably have liked the combat to be a little more difficult than it was. I keep forgetting how hard it is. It's one of those things where I keep forgetting how much it takes to actually hurt the Righteous Hands at this point, other than dropping AoE spells on them, which I got to do some of that. But the ACs are high, so. I really need to make a reminder to myself that for the next one, it's time to ramp up in terms of what's going after them and what they're fighting, just so that combat feels a little bit more high stakes. This one was more a matter of the numbers, and then there were 2 spellcasters, albeit one got to do more than the other. There was some fun with the special guests in terms of NPCs, young Percival and the elder Lord Reginald Danforth making an appearance, and having Reginald fighting alongside on a bridge, basically the 2 bridges being guarded, and basically doing a buck stops here, which is kind of funny with bullywugs because they could just hop over the bridge. There were other forces though that kind of needed the bridge. And of course it amuses me to no end that Lagamundo ends up taking like 85 to 90% of the damage that he takes in the last 2 rounds of the entire encounter. Suddenly I start hitting things. But the main thing here is that, it was 6 hours. We did get through it. It was, I enjoyed it. Everybody seems to have enjoyed it. And they killed one of the three main witch sisters. The possible dark druid, it's not entirely clear whether it's a dark druid or whether it was just a druid that had fallen under the spell of one of the witches. Well, I mean, listen, when you're the guy who is standing there in no armor, you can't blame them for wanting to take their shot at you. I suppose. I mean, on the North Bridge, a lot of it had to do with the fact that you had Star with her Ranger, and the armored dude is an old man. Maybe there. I haven't. Well, let's put it this way. I'm leaving my options open with that one. Okay, I'm not. I there are possibilities either way, and it's one of those things where I haven't decided yet what I like better for the story. There are a number of possibilities there. One of the bigger interesting things is the fact that you had a what is considered going to be a major NPC one way or another, who nobody at this moment knows his name. These little details, but the middle sister, which I believe is Muriel, ended up eating a couple of spells, courtesy of Doc Shoulder's wizard Sal, and between Sal and Thraskin. Yeah, it's funny that you should mention that. I I've been really thankful for the fact that the Living Greyhawk Niron group made the stuff that they did in Living Greyhawk, at least assuming that what they did in Living Greyhawk is accurately reflected what's in the Player's Guide to Niron. Yeah, and it's one of those things where I am very tempted to give her a new name as Queen, because her name is Princess, and I'll put it. I think I have it copied here correctly. Is that, which is really really freaking awkward to pronounce. Like I am honestly not entirely sure how that is supposed to be pronounced. And considering Archie, Archarzy. Yeah, it's one of those things where if of all the things that I took from the Player's Guide to Niron, and I did use quite a bit of it because, again, yes, it is somebody else's campaign, but it's usable. It's not. There isn't the whole we blew up the entire realm stuff type action that happened in some of the other lands. Oh, you found it. I just saw that. I just saw the Discord notification. Okay. All right. All right. Huh. So where do they have? I'm like looking where everything's sitting. Okay, so it is again. It is similar to both the Fate of Istis and the Marklands map. The city fortress is where the city fortress is where it is. The probably the more interesting thing is and this is one thing that it actually differs both from the what we call it, from the Fate of Istis and Markland's map, is where the city fortress sits. Because the city fortress is on the other side, but it's like more centrally located. Like there isn't this big, almost bay-like change to the river, where it's suddenly very wide, which is kind of interesting. I'm like looking for where the Temple of Palor is on this. Hey, look, the Temple of Palor is in a completely different location. Oh man. Apparently the Living Greyhawk crew went and looked at the two maps of what do you call it? The two current maps, or the two maps that I'm aware of so far of Realm Ward, and said, "Nah, we're gonna go a different way within both of them for stuff." Oh man, because where the Temple of Palor is, or where the Temple of Palor is, um, on the Fate of Istis map, isn't even a marked area in this. Um, they sort of kind of hint that the city baths are in that general vicinity, but I think the Temple of Palor is actually closer to the walls of the royal palace. The amusing thing is, where the Temple of Zilchus actually is closer to where the Royal Mint, or you know yeah, basically I guess the Royal Mint or whatever they called it, is in the Temple of the Fate of Istis map, and in the Marklands it says that the Temple of Palor was moved from its location to the building that previously handed the Mint, because the Mint was moved to a different city. Of course, the biggest problem is the fact that in the Marklands map, it's not moved to that building. It's still kind of in the same area that it always was, but the map doesn't even have the building as being in the same shape. So there's that. Oh man, it's just I don't even know. I honestly don't even know what to make of it anymore. So I'm assuming the Hall of Judges is like where the courts are, which is in a completely different place, as opposed to, as opposed to the Fate of Istis map, and it's not even marked in the Marklands map. The Annals, Temple Street, Hall of Judges, the Opera House. All right. I think the two taverns, or two of the taverns that are listed here, are in the Marklands map. I'm not sure if they're in the same place. But yeah, it's just, I mean, like, come on. It's not that hard. It really isn't. But, it is what it is. What are you going to do? Actually, what is Area? Oh, Area 10 is the Royal University. I'd have to compare, but Justinia's story time. It has been a long time since I've done a story time. Maybe I'll find something to read after this. Opera singing bard. No. uh, I'm in no shape. I haven't been drinking enough water to do singing like that. And I should drink some water. That's probably. I should probably do a hydrate thing just to remind myself. That would probably be useful. Hey, Greg, good to see you. We got a little sidetracked because we were talking. We had gotten to the Saturday session and the fights and what to do afterwards, and then Asher had told me, had sent me had found the living Greyhawk map of Realm Ward, which is now the third map of Realm Ward that I have. The first one being from Fate of Istis, the second one being in the Marklands, which somehow, Angel of Darkness sees this torment. Of course, it would help if I was a soprano and I'm singing that, but yes, I can do Phantom of the Opera, Brad. Thank you for asking. The opera mask is on the screen for a reason. But yeah, no, I did somehow I've owned the Marklands for 25, 30 years now, and never realized that there was a map of Realm Ward in it. I thought I had read it from cover to cover, and I'm now realizing that I probably haven't. Oh, thank you. I always appreciate. Hey, listen, if it's going to get somebody to use my Phantom emotes, I appreciate that. Cowboy Hob did the two Phantom emotes for me, the Bravo and my Raid one. That's right. That my giveaway does not tell me who. We do have a giveaway. Let's go with that. The giveaway from Trollord Games, $10 coupon or gift card towards any digital product from their site. If you do the PDF and print version option, you can apply the digital coupon to that as well. Costs nothing to enter, and listen, you get the chance to potentially get some Trollord Games gear. Speaking of which, I have two of these shirts in green on the way because my dog actually got to one of my green shirts, and well, there's that. Hey, Pat66, welcome in. But yeah, Asher, I'm still laughing because they went a different way, slightly different way with this one too. I'm not even sure what to say about that anymore. I kind of like the way this one is set up. It's just, it's just it's weird. It's weird that they have like complete differences, and I guess it is what it is. Oh goodness, okay. The problem with an Embers of Empire shirt is I would so want to also include my logo on it, but I don't know if I can. I don't know if having the Phantom mask on that logo would get. I probably could get away with it only because of the fact that it's not, it's more than just the show. There is the book. No, I did not finish describing all the sessions because I'm staring at the map and looking at the differences between this one and the other two, because there are differences. So, 3 maps, all 3. Realm Ward itself is generally the same shape. The city of fortress, not the city fortress, the palace is in the same place in all 3. This one, the city fortress, is set up a little differently because the other 2 maps don't have like this widening of the Duntide, where because the Duntide is more same shape, so the city fortress is more central in terms of being on the far side of the map, or far side of the river, I should say. it's interesting. I'm also interested in the fact that there are footbridges from one side of the Duntide to the other, if that's what those are supposed to be. Yeah, I mean, I get that the Fate of Istis maps are, one of the issues with them is the fact that they are very low on detail, and like the Realm Ward map, a lot of it's just not filled in with anything. There are like blocks of things that are just randomly there. Some of them are pointed out what they are, and then there's a lot of empty space with like nothing there. But the Marklands map, kind of mirrors it, except it's facing in the different direction, or basically they just changed the orientation. And then they moved buildings around. They did fill in more details as far as more stuff being there. But again, they half the stuff or 3/4 of the stuff that they chose is not where it is in the other place, and it's not even the same shape that it was, and then they did it again with the Living Greyhawk map. And I'm very confused about these bridges over the Duntide River, because they are very obviously bridges. Which, one of the issues I had with the map, as we were talking about the map in where I kind of like retcon where the little town is actually on the Natmarsh side of the Duntide, and that just happens to be a stream running through it, is because I couldn't, ships going through. Well, how do you do it? I mean, how big are these bridges? That's and there's 3 of them. It's not like there's just one. They've got 3 of them crossing the river, which kind of like boggles my mind. I mean, they'd have to be, unless they're telling me that no ship with any kind of mast is going up the Duntide, and they're all like all of the merchant ships are all like barge level big rowing type things. Yeah, I mean, I guess, but even then, those are going to be really really sizable bridges. It just, I don't know. I mean, okay, I guess it's possible. Now it makes me wonder. It makes me wonder in ancient time, because I've been to Rome, and while no ships will be floated going up the Tiber anytime soon into Rome, because there's just there's really no water. There's barely any water there half the time. There are roads that go over the Tiber, and I wonder whether they existed in ancient times, if there was bridges, and how high those bridges were, and what kind of ships were. Now I'm back in my thinking about Rome era. But let's get back to Saturday. So Saturday, again, I kind of wish I need to start. I really do need to ramping things up, because it's kind of obvious that the party is strong enough to fight stronger things. Your age of bullywugs and gnolls and such is, everybody does love Rome. If you don't love Rome, well, I don't care about you. I mean, just really, okay. I might care about you, but you're wrong. You gotta love Rome. It's just too cool. There's just too much cool stuff. Who doesn't love aqueducts and all the amazing things that they built? So after the combat ended, and we got there just about 2 hours left, which was great, because we were able to do just enough role playing. Get them to the city, have them interact with the queen, and have a surprise appearance. It's all been downhill since Rome. with the appearance of someone who, if you knew the royal family, the composition of the royal family of Nyrond, the now deceased king and queen. The queen was actually the sister of one Jalarzi Salivarian of the Circle of Eight. However, in this campaign, she has now left the circle and has taken her place as advisor and counselor and basically pretty much a name royal wizard of the court of Nyrond, or the kingdom of Nyrond, because she is determined that the fate that befell her sister and her brother-in-law will not befall her niece. So that's a lot of fun. I promise that she's not going to become the Deus Ex Machina. Yes. Of the campaign. There will be no constant last second bailouts from the royal wizard. She's got better things to do than bail out the party all the time. There's a royal family to keep alive. However, the good news is she's there. She we call it. She will be a resource. It's useful. I think it adds a more personal touch than, for me, could I come up with a royal wizard? Yeah, I could have done another royal wizard and, made it a resource or come up with some other resource. But I very purposely went 40 years into the future so that it wouldn't be, you run into this special person, you run into that special person. This one had very definitive ties. I threw in a very brief encounter or thing with Warren Starcoat because the adventure was specifically tied to something that involved him. It was not, it wasn't just a random. Hey, we're going to throw a high level, famous, well, maybe semi-famous in his thing into the mix. Jalarzi at least has that tie to it. It makes for a better story, and it makes it more likely that she'd be a willing resource for things that they, information that they may need, or bits of wisdom, or whatever the case. So, there is that. But without being that ever present, we're just, we're just waiting for Jalarzi to show up so she can nuke the baddies for us, because that will not be happening. Besides, if we did that, Sanius would be very, very, very bored. He's got to be able to do his paladin thing, and you can't hand out pamphlets to piles of dust. I mean, you could, but there's not much chance of them reading them. I do like the fact that Sanius very, very briefly managed to convert someone possibly to St. Cuthbert. Of course, that was 2 seconds before somebody else decided to execute the guy. We won't name names. That was a bit of an amusing moment. And the party got some new titles. Sanius is now a knight. The others are now those who were there for the battle are here protectors of the realm with certain rights and privileges. Lagamundo, resident of the mean streets of Realm Mod, effectively has a key to the city. Which is kind of cool. For his troubles and, for a bit of help that the party can use. Sal now has in his spellbook all of the first, second, and third level spells. So, he at least for first, second, and third level spells, he won't need to do any research. He can go, he can start worrying and saving up money for when fourth level spells come. Ah, yes, the boon, never pay taxes again. Yes, yes. You'll need to remind me of that if I ever have you tried to get into a city and they try to charge you for anything. I'll probably remember, but just in case, remind me of that. So Saturday, yeah, I mean, it was like I said, it was the one that made me nervous because, I knew there was going to be a little bit. Because of the fact that it was going to be a couple of days, and I needed a way to introduce Star's character, Jordan. Because we need the party. The party kind of needed a ranger, and while he was not able to, and he's basically taken over ranger duties. And then his first alternate was had been Coco, and she wasn't available because she was out in California. The demon is still out and about. Yeah, I was. I didn't. I was tempted, and then I realized that the demon really didn't fit this particular fight. I've got better uses. The demon is out there, or whatever whatever that conjured creature. It very much seems to be a demon. That's for sure. It was not so much conjured as summoned. I guess there's not a hell of a lot of difference between the two. But yeah, there's that still flying about. But yeah, one of the three witches fell, and that is going to have interesting consequences. Because, well, needless to say, the other two are not going to be happy about it. Not only did she fall, her head was Thraskin basically just bashed her head in, which was kind of fun. Yeah, there was between Sal and Thraskin, they put a whipping on her. So let's see. Moving on. We ended up going to Sunday, and then by the time Sunday hit, the Saturday session was the last one that took place on the Nat Marsh area. So like I said, it was and we're back out of the ad break. The Saturday session was the last one that took place in the Nat Marsh area. The joust itself was a lot of fun. I ended up getting, as the Black Knight, I had great fun playing in the joust, and getting to play the heel a bit, and like teasing everybody, and doing the insults and the sneering and so on and so forth. And eventually, Little Bones did take me out. So there was that, and then got to enjoy the rest of it while I furiously did more prep for Sunday, because at that point I still had some. I still had pre-gens that I needed to finish up and send out, and then make sure that the overlays were in place. Sunday morning. We got to Sunday morning, and it was time for the first adventure, Heart of the Righteous. And tragedy struck in that my coffee order spilled in the DoorDash driver's car, because I got I ordered 2 coffees, and I forgot what I ordered with it. I think it might have been a muffin or something. 2 coffees from Dunkin' Donuts, and their lids are terrible, and it's been a problem more than once, where the lid on the larger of the 2 coffees things, and it basically makes a mess. I'm 95% sure it happened about a block from my house, and the order got canceled. So we started the session with a fun party. I mean, this was a fun party. We had DM Chris and his wife back playing their monk and rogue. Brungal playing a second character, a human fighter. A gentleman by the name of Roberto playing an elf wizard named Alisar. And then we had a human cleric and a human illusionist. So we had both a wizard and an illusionist. Asher, I have the ability to make my own coffee. It's just, by Sunday morning, I was already dragging. Sunday morning, I woke up and I meant to get up at 6 o'clock, and it was 10 minutes to 7 when I got up, and I was damn near in a panic because there were still things that I needed to do because I was just exhausted Saturday night. So I needed to make sure that everything was in place. I needed to make sure that, everything was set up properly, and it was a lot. It was a lot. So I had, I think I just basically brought something down to snack on in the morning. I don't remember what I did Sunday morning before, while I was waiting, and then, had water. One of those OSR I'll just roll on a table gems. I'm not entirely. I've got my dice tray. Actually, I've got my. It's actually made of styrofoam. It's gotten a little beaten up over the years, but the ones who don't plan sessions. Well, that depends, because my sessions, I've got my major encounters. I've got what I know might be minor encounters, and and then it's just a matter of where else the party takes me. I don't overplan. Like, there are GMs who plan every session down to the slightest detail, and I'm like, my brain melts when I look at that. And there is no way in freaking hell that I could run 6 sessions with that level of planning. That's insane. That would be like, I would have needed to have started if I was going to do that, I would have needed to have started planning that immediately after last year's session, which obviously wouldn't have worked because I wouldn't have known what was going on in between them. There's no way I could do it with those heavy, in-depth planning. My ability to do this is based on the fact that I can do a lot. I can adjust to, as they say, the facts on the ground, or whatever the actual term is. This one was kind of fun because we started off, we actually started off at the location. They were, I had a really cool map where it was a location that was of concern in the Friday night session, where they were worried that the humanoids were trying to get to. Turns out that there were more humanoids in the area. So members of the guild were sent there. 2 of the now veteran members of the guild, or more veteran members of the guild, in that they were like in their 4th adventure for the guild, 4th or 5th really. That's cool for a weekend. I'm not, for campaign purposes, I'm not big on doing random dungeon tables. I use random dungeon tables for the purposes of letting me know what kind of things should be found in the dungeon. And the randomization I'll do is when I've already decided that there's going to be an encounter, and then I just want to find out which group will get it. Or I might add a slight bit of randomness to it. Whether or not there's going to be an encounter, but more or less, I've decided that there's going to be an encounter or something. Maybe not full encounter, but something's going to happen. And I'll do a little dice rolling. I'm not randomly dice rolling what they actually come across, though. It's a question of whether there's encounter and which group it hits. Because I'm not going to see that level of control and potentially get a party killed just because the dice tables told me to hit them with something that they were in no way, shape, or form prepared to fight at the moment. Because that if I killed a character that way, I would feel real shitty as a GM. It's maybe it's just me, but yeah, that's for a campaign. No. Yeah, I mean, if you enjoy it, listen, I'm not going. I'm just telling you how I'd feel. If I rolled a table, if I had just basically beaten the party up, and then I rolled, check for random encounters, and it came up with an encounter where the creatures that were found there, were more than you could handle at your current level of healing, and such. It's like, okay, well. Either I'm following the table or I'm not following the table. What am I doing here? So if I was going to follow the table, then I'll follow the table. If I follow the table, well, then I'm all in on what the table's telling me. And if you guys die, well, hey, listen, that's what I rolled. What am I going to do? And that feels like crap. That feels like a cop out. It's almost like kind of the inverse. Thing with why I don't fudge dice, because I don't want, I don't want the responsibility for deciding who lives or dies, and at the same time, at the other end, I don't want to completely abdicate responsibility for who lives or dies. Or I can't completely abdicate. It's kind of like two extreme edges of the same thing, where the GM's responsibility for what their players and what their players are forced to face, and the consequences of those choices. So yeah, this was an interesting group in that there's some strategic planning that went on. They ended up facing an infestation of kobolds, which really wasn't meant to trouble the party all that much. It was kind of a fun way to just start off, let some of the newer players get a feel for how combat worked. Because I think this is one where I had more new player. I had 3 who were very experienced, and 2 who had never played the game before, and 1 who hadn't played C&C in like 25 years. I literally think he was working off like a second or third printing player's handbook, which was really cool. He showed me the book. And we also had both a wizard and an illusionist in this party, which made for some good crowd control, which is why I didn't feel bad at all about sending in about 30 kobolds at them. They decided not to kill all the kobolds. They were smart enough to take some of them prisoner, and that led to some fun interactions where they went hunting for another large group of humanoids. And again, chaos ensued as the plan the plan to take shape. They did very well though. They did well in planning the attack. It took a little bit of planning, but they got it done. And it was a good adventure. It also, from a campaign standpoint, They managed to successfully protect the construction of a what do you call it, a fortress dedicated to Hieronymus. So that's going to have that will have some consequences going forward. It will be it's a good thing for the campaign, and it was also that was when they first started to get the news. Well, not only the news of the open rebellion, but they also got the news that one of the witches had fallen, or at least I think they did. I'm trying to remember if I actually, I might have mentioned it. I'm pretty sure that I mentioned to them that ravens had come through and one of the witches had fallen. And then finally, that led to the final session of the weekend, Agents of Almore. Agents of Almore was a lot of fun. First of all, Mayuso, Brad, has introduced one of the more unique characters in terms of the campaign, in that he's playing a gnome knight, Sir Aidan of Grimm, otherwise known as Sir Aidan the Stinkfish, a gnome knight, basically riding an oversized badger. Oh boy. This one we had an archer, we had a ranger, a monk, a rogue, and a cleric, which made for an interesting group. And they found themselves in a town where, despite the fact that Brewfest was the town of Crestfall, out in one of the in the Amorian provinces, where there was no sign of Brewfest being being held at all, and that is because there was first they found one, and then a second priest of Faltus who had something of a firm grip on the town. And they were not appreciative of the party's efforts to provide relief. There was a lot of strangeness in that there seemed to be just enough in the way of supplies to keep the town fed, no more, no less. There wasn't much money. There wasn't much in the way of trade goods. And things grew kind of heated when the ranger, played by Amy Crittenden, who was playing in her first game of CNC, and I mean it wholeheartely when I say it was an honor to be the person who got to run her first Castles and Crusade session for her. So that was, she's been a part of the community for a long time. Hadn't been around quite as much as she had been a couple of years ago. I think she's just basically busy doing other thing, a lot of stuff, and just hasn't had as much time to check in. But it was she was a hell of a lot of fun playing Nalina, her elf ranger, and we had Norker playing his I think it was Norker playing his the elf archer Valindo, who had, I think, last played either last virtual Greyhawk Con or he might have been during the St. Jude's fundraiser. I'd have to go back and look. So they went and hunted down a deer and were in a process of prepping the deer for a feast for the townsfolk when the priest came back with friends, and then more friends, and words were exchanged, and one of the more amusing combats ensued, especially the Amy's interactions with her ranger's interactions with the first priest and basically just telling him no. So it was a lot of fun. One of the more amusing moments was when this rather dark knightish type fellow, very heavily armored, decided to turn around and make his way towards where Sir Aidan had basically been sitting on his his badger, where the badger had been stabled, I guess is, for about lack of a better term. It wasn't in a stable, it was just basically being, kept somewhere. And Sir Aidan decided that Lakeisha's character, Minya, the halfling rogue, was kind of in trouble and needed help, so did a massive run around and kind of left the knight standing there wondering what the hell happened. It made for some fun moments. The big takeaway was after the defeat, they took care of the priest, the high priest, the cultists of Fultus. That's almost close to a rhyme. But the big thing they found was these were not standard. These were not standard Fulton followers. They were, in fact, members of the Valorous League of Blindness, an extreme Fulton cult sect, however you want to put it, that has been known to be used by the Theocracy of the Pale to cause trouble in the Niron borders. They are disavowed by and really hated by the Church of Fultus within Niron itself. So that's gonna add for some actual interesting things later on. There's the fact that the Theocracy of the Pale is now found to be at least partially behind the forces that had been causing unrest in the former Almorian, in the Almorian provinces, which has been a building theme. Whether or not they are done causing unrest, or whether the last of the unrest has been seen, or if it takes on a life of its own, well, you're just gonna have to tune into future sessions because more to come on that score. Then there's the question is like, well, is this the only place that they're trying to cause problems? Are they back on the northern border as well? And then after that, I raided into Jay's evening stream, and I put on alert. I went upstairs and I just rested. I was done. Monday, I slept basically through Monday. I didn't sleep through Monday. Monday, I was lying down for like the entire thing watching television because I couldn't get up. And Monday night, I still fell asleep really easily because I was freaking exhausted. It was a great weekend though. So finishing up, let's talk about where are we going from here? Well, one of the things that is going to happen is, there's another, other than the Player's Guide to Niron, another supplement is dropped, and I'm planning on making more use of it. And this was by, I keep forgetting how his last name is pronounced. First name's Paul. Was it Aranthar? The cleric is who's he's kind of known as. He, in addition to the Player's Guide to Niron, he also dropped a supplement for Callistor, which is a city in Niron that is in a very important place for the campaign, in that it kind of falls on the border, on the western side, a little north of where the party had been kind of operating for the Righteous Hands had been operating for the most part. But on the Duntide, probably close. I think it's actually closer to where the Natmarsh meets the Celadon Forest, which is also of interest. So there might be more to come to that. At least one of the groups may end up start working out of there as opposed to Ragby. And it may very well be the righteous hands because the Nat Marsh is of particular importance to them. The Eventide is of particular importance to them. And of course, the capital is of particular importance. So being on that side of the map and being at a city that is more reasonable for each, all those different areas is something that I want to consider. Obviously, there is still more, as far as where we're going from here, there is still more with regards to the witches because now there are two sisters who are without their middle sister, and they are not going to be happy about that. Obviously, vengeance will be heavily on their minds. Obviously, vengeance will be heavily on the party's mind, and all of it paved. I love it. Spent enough time in the Matt Marsh. And not only that, the interesting thing is one of the supplements is supposed to be coming out is a supplement on the Nat Marsh itself. So that one might take the most work to figure out how I'm going to make it work for the campaign if it ever does drop. We'll see what that looks like when it happens. There is the actual rebellion. Now, nobody at this point has actually seen Lord Ventros, but there is, let's put it away. There are forces openly fighting in his name. The V standing for Ventros is no longer a best guess. It is confirmed, but again, nobody has seen nobody has seen him at all. We mentioned the fact that, there's the question of what is going on in Almore. Is it all the Valorous League behind the problems? There had been some stuff with Lord Ventros's shenanigans there as well, but a lot of it has to do, been having to do with the league. There's the question of the Pale, how deep into this are they, and those ramifications. Hey, Pat, good to see you. Pat, we do have a giveaway, so I know you want to get in on that because you've been really lucky with those lately. Oh, cool. Yeah, no, we're just finishing up. And then the other thing is, I've started putting together the roster in terms of all the different characters because who's playing them and who they are. There's too many of them to count at the. Well, there's over 50 player characters now. I think I'm at 56 if I remember what I told you correctly. 55, 56. Yeah, I did see the one that you tried to put together. And it's basically helping me having something that I can use to type stuff in, so I don't have to go through every little thing, and then I'll just figure out which ones aren't there from the portrait work stuff. Because in the coming year, I want more groups. I've got more players now who've expressed an interest in playing again. So I want to put together more groups now that I have more energy. Continuing these storylines, maybe starting new. And of course, there's going to be some side quests that are not going to be directly tied into the main story. I really need to figure out how to modify Anna's map for my own purposes so that I can add stuff onto the map for Nyrond, because the Nyrondes map is entirely too freaking empty. There is so much open space with nothing there, and I want to be able to start marking these places on the map so the kingdom feels more active, more lived in, and such, as opposed to big areas of terrain that have these cities that are just marked. Because again, the other part of it is there's not much. I mean, it doesn't have like mountain ranges in the middle of the map, So, I mean, there are hills and such, but the map doesn't really reflect it, and I want to be able to show where these places are. Maybe fill that, maybe fill that in a little. The other part is more organizations. The Church of Heronius, the Church of Palor, the Church of Foltus. All three of those are going to, maybe even the Church of St. Cuthbert. I might have to figure out how to, Cuthbert's not really the biggest presence in Nyrond. But listen, you've got Saunius wandering around there. There's got to be something to do with that. There's the Knights of the Eventide. There are the Knights of Nyrond, which is a smaller order, and I have to decide whether Mike Mossberger, otherwise known as von Malku, had Cult of Saunius pamphlets for everyone, tea and pamphlets for everyone. Von Malku had made a 1E, I think it's a 1E/2E character class for the Knights of Nyrond. They feel like a paladin variant, and I'm okay with that. It's just a little weird that they'd be if I make them into a CNC class, they'd be a paladin variant with the knightish name. It might cause some confusion because they really will not have knight abilities. So I'm not entirely sure what I'd have the class called. We'll can figure that out. Might call them like the Order of Nyrond. Maybe, but possibly. I could kind of. See, the problem is, I hate the fact that I'd be calling them something that they aren't named. It's not part of their actual name at all. Like they have an involved name. They have a couple of long involved names, but I'll see. I might create a character class out of that. I'd be curious to see what the XP table works out to be. But more orders, like different, there's the Circle of the Gnatmarsh. I decided that there was a Circle of the Celadon. And I think I'm going with wherever there's wherever druids might be, there might be a circle type group where it includes druids, rangers, and those other who are, sworn to the interests of that particular area, whether it be one of the marshes, one of the forests, or not, or such, and go with that. Just basically lots of different stuff, and start introducing some of the custom classes, more of the specialty. Start making specialty priests available. I need to figure that out. But it's gonna be a fun time. There's a lot to come. This is starting year 3 now, and really I can honestly say that things are just really getting started in terms of where this can go and what this can be. I'm excited. I hope you're all excited. I want to thank you all for hanging in. Because of, I know that Jay, I believe, is watching probably, and I'm assuming by now they're already, I don't know if the game started yet, but if the game started, I'm assuming that Jay is watching the Eagles kick my Giants' ass, because we are terrible. Which is, in case you're wondering why there is no Jay game tonight. However, I will be on Jay's stream on Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Gam the Confident returns, which always makes for a fun time. And I believe this one is going to be very, if I understood what Jay told me, this is going to be very heavily barbarian based. So this is cool. We are going to do the giveaway now. So last chance, ! Ticket to enter. And then we will be heading over to Guild Superior, who I believe is going to be, they're doing some New of Arden. which is very, very, very cool. I think they're just getting started. So hang in. Let's get this giveaway done. And we're going to close it out now. And the giveaway winner is... Oh, my God. Okay, hold on a second. My bad. Misclick. Somehow I clicked finish giveaway instead of roll. So there are... can I do a roll in... Is there a roll thing in here? No, there is not, of course. That would be too easy. Does that work? Yeah, no. Okay. All right, so there are 6 people entered. I am going to roll. Actually, let's do this. I am going to go over to my Discord, to the F&C Dice Roll section, and roll 6. That is number 2. So number 2 on my list for the giveaway is Asher. I can't believe I failed at that. That kills me. And there's no way to reopen it. Like the giveaway, yeah, it's. I can't believe I did that. I'm kind of surprised. It's been a couple of years, and that's the first time I've managed to do that. So, anyway, congrats, Asher. Let's get ready to raid Guild Superior. I do have I do have my own raid emote. It is available. It should be available to everyone, regardless of whether or not you're a subscriber. So, I mean, I would love if you would use the emote, but, I understand if you have other that you prefer. But hang in there as we raid Guild Superior. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging in. It was very, very, it was a cool look back at the weekend. I know I squirreled quite a bit, but, we went in a full over an hour and a half, which is very cool. But, yeah, getting ready to raid Guild Superior now. And rating in 3, 2, 1. See you on the flip side.